بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيبنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. In this lecture I will talk about the revolution and intellectual jihad of Imam Rabbani Mojadded al-Fisani قدس الله سره, and his dealing with Jalaluddin Akbar's misguided and corrupt system and his so-called divine religion, Din Ilahi. A very important point is to know that the birth of Hazrat Mojadded al-Fisani rahmatullah alayhi is 9 years after Akbar's accession to the throne. When Hazrat Mojadded rahmatullah alayhi reached the age of 17 and 18, Akbar had been in power for 27 years. And during this time he humiliated and weakened Islam in the Indian subcontinent. The scholars of Akbar time who were against Akbar's so-called divine religion or Din Ilahi can be divided into three categories. First, those who raised their voice against Akbar, all were assassinated by the people around Akbar. Second, those who were forced to migrate from India. Third, those who somehow preferred silence and tried to create an intellectual revolution without a physical fight. I explained the difficult condition of Akbar's time in the first video. Akbar was a powerful king and emperor, and his so-called divine religion or Din Ilahi had officially replaced Islam in India, and the regime was approved by bad scholars. In such a situation, the first thing Hazrat Mojadded Qaddasallahu Sirra did was jihad by pen and writing. He started writing treatises on proof of prophethood, Risale Isbat Nubuwat, treatise on glorifying, Risale Tahliliyah, and treatise on refuting of Shias, Risale Radd Rawafid. And without mentioning Akbar and Abul Fazl, he refuted their belief with decisive reasons. He proved the prophethood that Akbar and his followers denied, and made people understand the status of prophet and prophethood in the Islamic society. In 1014 lunar Hijri, Akbar's son Jahangir became the king after him. Jahangir's method was different from his father. Hazrat Mojadded rahmatullah alayhi considered this opportunity appropriate to advise the king. He started writing frequent letters to emirs of the court. He reminded them and the king of the oppression and insults that had been inflicted on Muslims and Islam during Akbar's time. In addition, he had a comprehensive plan, and to implement this plan, he won the support of Nawab Murtaza Khan, known as Sheikh Farid Bukhari. Sheikh Farid Bukhari was the person whose support and protection brought Jahangir to the throne. He was one of the king's pillar and relatives. Hazrat Mojadded, in the first volume of Maktubat, sent 21 letters entitled to Sheikh Farid Bukhari, the closest person to Jahangir. All these letters are pearls of important advices, good preaching and calling with fact, sobriety, and eloquence for the pillars of the government and the king himself. By reading these 21 letters, it becomes clear to everyone that Hazrat Mojadded Rahmatullah alayhi, with those attractive and honorable expressions, eloquence, and with strong arguments, warned the close ones of Jahangir's government about the dire consequences of the marginalizing Sharia in India. He encouraged them to understand and inform the king about the awkward and humiliating situation of Muslims and Islam in the country. In addition, he encouraged them with his scholarly guidance to revive and enforce Islamic laws in India. In the letters he sent, he emphasized on several issues. First, informing the king's court members about real Islam and recommending them to inform and guide the king about religious issues. Second, seeking support from Jahangir to promote Sharia and to make him understand that without this support it is difficult to promote Sharia. Third, encouraging the religious scholars to get closer to the king as soon as possible to reduce the influence of evil and Hindu-tempered scholars from the court. Among those, I will mention the important points noted in some of those letters as example. In volume 1 of Maktubat, letter number 44, he writes on the subject of praise and honor of the best of creation, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and in stating the true believers of the Sharia are amongst the best of the nations, and the disbelievers are the worst of the children of Adam. At the same time, encouraging the members of the king's court to follow the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In letter 47 of same volume, he writes, "The king in relation to the world is in the tent of the heart in relation to the body. If the heart is righteous, the body is righteous. And if the heart is corrupt, the body is corrupt. The goodness of the king is the goodness of the world, and his corruption is the corruption of the world." To Khan Azam Mirza Aziz Koka, the general and the milk sibling of Jahangir, in the first volume of Maktubat, letter number 65, he writes regretfully about the weakness of Islam and Muslims and enforcement on the strengthening of Islam and the implementation of Islamic rules. In the first volume of Maktubat, in letter 66, he writes, in the price of Naqshbandi Tariqa and about its relation to the way of companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and honors and virtues of the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A letter to Khan Jahan Ludi, the other pillar of the government, in volume 3 of Maktubat, letter number 54, he writes about following the Sharia and fighting against enemies of Islam. To Lala Beg, another pillar of the government, in volume 1, letter number 81, he wrote on inciting, forcing the spread of Islam and statement of the weakness and suffering of the Muslims and the evil takeover of the affairs of the state by the non-believers. In addition, His Eminence wrote letters to other pillars of the government, such as Mirza Abdul Rahim, and his son Mirza Darab Beg, Khwaja Jahan, and Nawab Qilish Khan, to remind them of the bad situation of Islam and Muslims during the Akbar era and encourage them to revive Islam and its rules. Good Muslims who wanted to cooperate with the government for the revival and promoting of Islam, Hazrat Mojadded mentioned them in volume 1 of Maktubat, letter number 47, titled to Nawab Murtaza Khan, Sheikh Farid Bukhari, in the name of Jirgai Mumiddan Islam, the Assembly of Supporters of Islam. Although I could not find a reference to the procedure of this jirga, but for sure, in addition to sending letters to the king and close friends of the court, Hazrat Mojadded Qaddasallahu Sirra had organized meetings to plan this great intellectual revolution and scholarly jihad in Sirhind. Over time, Jahangir exempted Muslims from several taxes. He ordered his governors to build mosques in their territories. The production and sale of wine was banned, and Jahangir decided to spend Friday nights with scholars and mashayikh. Between the year of 1022 and 1025 lunar Hijri, there was again negative changes in the political situation of India. In 1020 lunar Hijri, Jahangir married Nur Jahan, who was the daughter of an Iranian lord. Nawab Qilish Khan and Nawab Murtaza Khan Farid Bukhari died. A great vacuum was created in the government, and the Queen Nur Jahan took many government powers in her hands. She entrusted the high positions of the government to her relatives. Thus, the Jirga of Mumiddan Islam, which was established by Imam Rabbani Mojadded Al-Fisani Rahmatullah alayhi, the Jirga lost its two strong arms and supports in the government. Shia scholars were invited from Iran to India and infiltrated the government. The Shia scholars of the court, with the intention of taking revenge on Hazrat Mojadded Al-Fisani, who had previously written the treatise rejection of the Rawafiz, they told to Jahangir that Hazrat Mojadded consider his position higher than Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu. The same Hazrat Abu Bakr who they disliked and used to say bad things about him. For this claim, they brought one of the difficult letters from Maktubat as a proof, trying by distorting the meaning and interpretation of the document. Jahangir was not convinced and asked Hazrat Mojadded to come to the court. Hazrat Mojadded Qaddasallahu Sirra convinced Jahangir with strong arguments, but the wickedness of the court officials protested about why Hazrat Mojadded denied prostration to Jahangir when he came to the court. Prostration was still a court custom. Nawab Asif Khan, the brother of Queen Nur Jahan, whispered to the king and advised him to put Hazrat Mojadded under surveillance. Through his whispering to Jahangir's ear, he injected to the mind of the king that this sheikh has many followers in the army and all over India and across the river, and it's possible that one day he will rebel against the king with their help. After some time, Asif Khan advised to imprison Hazrat Mojadded Qaddasallahu Sirah. Hazrat was imprisoned for 2 years from 1028 to 1029 and under supervision for 5 years from 1029 to 1033 lunar Hijri. After being released from prison, Hazrat Mojadded was given the option to return to Sirhind or to stay with Jahangir. Hazrat preferred to stay and give religious education to the king. In letter number 78 of the 3rd volume of Maktubat, he writes to Makhdum Zadaha, i.e. his children, that despite his eagerness to meet them, he is busy with important work. In letter number 43, volume 3 of Maktubat, he mentions to his children about the meetings of guidance with Jahangir and teaching him religious education on topics such as beliefs, issue of origin and resurrection, and other important religious issues, and the interpretation of Holy Quran until Surah Ankabut. He writes to them with the same beautiful words and eloquence as he used to write. You may read this letter yourself, which is a short letter. The stay of several months of Imam Rabbani, Hazrat Mojadded Al-Fisani Rahmatullah Alayhi, after getting rid of prison, and his eminence's instruction caused Jahangir in the last 10 years of his rule to enforce Islamic rules in India. He went to the Congress in the presence of Hazrat Mojadded and broke the idols. This was a summarized talk about Imam Rabbani Mojadded Al-Fisani Rahmatullah Alayhi's peaceful revolution and intellectual jihad against the Emperor Akbar and his Ilahi Deen. As I said at the beginning, for explaining these rich topics is required several days seminars, but I had summarized them in 3 videos in less than 1 hour. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المؤمنين.